Hitting record now. Thank you for the reminder.
All
No
right.
worries.
All right. Super excited to be with all of you and very, very excited for this conversation around habits. Habits are endlessly fascinating, endlessly like a work in progress. If you've ever kind of really, you know, dove into habits and sort of explored what's there, it's just always something there to keep working on. But mostly for our clients, this is prime territory for the process of behavior change. And of course, most of our clients come to us as coaches looking to make a change in their life, looking to do something different, looking to up level in some area of their lives. And habits are usually the foundation or the underlying process that will help them get to where they want to go. So today we're going to be talking about mini habits. The first half of what we talk about is kind of habits in general, and then we'll move into mini habits, or sometimes what are called tiny habits. And we do have a lot to go over, so let's get going. First question I want to bring up to the group is why? Why do we care about habits? Like, what good have habits been in your life? Any thoughts on this question?
They become automatic and they don't take energy.
Automatic, don't
Mm,
take energy. Thank you, Nahid. Thank you. What else?
mm. I'm of two minds. That's a positive one. They don't take energy. Even though they're difficult, you can find yourself doing them without question because they're worn in grooves in your
Mhm.
behavior. But at the same time, if a habit is not serving you, it can be difficult to break them and
Mm.
causes a little disruption in the day-to-day uh, life.
Right. Right. They can cut both ways. Absolutely. I'm gonna call you Mr. Adams, but your first name again is
Tony,
Tony. Okay,
sorry,
very good.
I'll
All
change
good.
that.
All good. All good. Anybody else? Thank you, Tony. Anybody else? Why do we care about habits so much? What good are habits?
If we choose intentionally, we can get we can actually choose and build habits that align with our values and our purpose.
Great. Great. Yes, I love where you're going with that, Michael. Yeah, habits. So Wendy Wood, one of the most famous habits researchers, she's actually at University of Southern California. Um, Largely looked to actually as the really the world's foremost expert on habits, at least the science of habits. And she and her team of researchers believe that it's about 43% of every day comes from place of habit. So if you can get in the driver's seat of almost half of your behavior every day and really direct that toward your values, toward your goals, toward what you want, instead of letting that, almost half of what you do every day just
Mm,
be kind of decided by the environment, there's a lot of power in that grabbing a hold of the steering wheel and really moving habits in the direction of your goals. Um, because your brain is really this habit making machine. It will make habits with or without your permission. And I think this is one of the most interesting things about habits. This already came up in the discussion. There's sort of positives to habits and there can be downsides to habits. Your brain is really habit agnostic. And what we mean by that is it doesn't care really whether the habit is good or bad for you. It's thinking much more short term than that. It's asking itself, how do I save energy? And one of the primary ways the brain saves energy is turning any repeated behavior, into a habit. So whether that's eating a row of chocolate right before bed, or whether that's going for a run first thing in the morning, anything it can do to outsource the automation, or automaticity is actually what they often call it in the research, of that behavior, it will, because it's an energy saver. Brains are basically energy Scrooges. So they have plenty of energy. This is the irony or maybe the paradox, but they just don't like to spend it. And so habits is one of the primary ways that they save energy. So decisions, what this tends to look like is any decision, if I have to make a decision to eat that row of chocolate before bed, you know the one I'm talking about, the nice row of dark chocolate, got from the food co-op down the street. If I have to make a decision to do that before bed, my brain, and I do that multiple days in a row, my brain is going to automatically and unconsciously start changing it from a decision into something that's more unconscious rather than conscious. So conscious activity in the brain is effortful. It takes a lot of energy. Unconscious, sometimes we call this subconscious, is more effortless, or at least takes less effort. So again, anything that your brain can do to turn something from a decision into a habit, it just will in the background, won't ask for your permission, won't say, do you really want this as a habit? It will just do it automatically as it notices a repeated behavior in any part of your life. And by the way, I hope you're phone behavior, like watching phone in bed or surfing before bed, or these types of habits are some of the most common and potentially tricky habits, in a modern context. All right. So in some sense, some critical sense, these kinds of habits are habits by default. This already came up, but we really want to move from habits by default to habits by design. We want to get in the driver's seat. Welcome, Kent. We want to get in the driver's seat of that habit forming process. We want to be habit architects. This wonderful science writer, Gretchen Rubin, who said, habits are the invisible architecture of our everyday lives. And so we want to become the architect of those behaviors rather than just allowing the environment to architect them for us by default. And that's learnable. Any guesses on how long a new habit does take to form? What's on this? Yeah, go for it. Tony.
I would say 48 hours.
48 hours? Good guess. Anybody else?
I've heard everything from 21 days to 30 days to various different things. So I guess it depends how you define it.
Good. We'll get into that. There is some variation. The average is the most common answer is definitely 21. That really stuck in the kind of cultural lexicon, but it's actually 66 days. So this is Wendy Wood again and her team who figured this out. But this is the average. Harder habits take a little bit more. So if we know, for example, exercise, which is one of these harder habits, tends to be one of these harder habits, takes about 91 days. Mini habits, which we'll get into based on BJ Fogg's research, tend to take about 30-ish days, about a month. And so I think it's a pretty decent rule of thumb to say, okay, if it's a easy habit, mini habit, it's going to take me about a month. If it's a medium level habit, it's going to take me about 2 months. If it's a harder habit, it's going to take me about 3 months. That's a pretty decent rule of thumb, and it tends to track with the science. All right, why does it take so long? So because all of you are Californians, or I think all of you are Californians, you might know I-15 that leaves Los Angeles and goes up the corridor through Las Vegas, southern Utah, and then up through Idaho. But this is looking out the window between Los Angeles and Las Vegas on I-15. I want you to, and some of you have probably driven this stretch of freeway. I want you to just imagine pulling over to the shoulder of I-15 and starting to drive on the actual sagebrush. I want you to just think of like what happens to the speed of the car compared to what you were doing on I-15. It's like instantly like huge drop, right? Maybe 5 miles an hour. You can't keep that, 75 or whatever it is at that point going, right? Your vigilance goes way up because you might get high centered, you might hit a rock, you might get stuck. The conversation you were having with your friend or significant other probably stops because you're so focused. It's hard. It's difficult. Everything in you wants to get back onto I-15. Why? Because it's easier to drive on. Of course. But if you drive on this patch of earth and you do it again and again and again and again, eventually, over time, you'll get something like tire tracks. Now, tire tracks are nothing to write home about. You can't go from 0 to 70 on a pair of tire tracks, but you can go from like 0 to 15, which is progress. And if enough cars start doing this, let's say there's some interesting, something or other in the desert that they're all checking out, and this starts happening, hundreds of cars start doing this every day. It might even level out even more into maybe a fully formed dirt road. You can kick it up to 25 or 30 at this point comfortably. But the big leap is, of course, when the Nevada Department of Transportation, Jim and Jerry, watching their monitors are like, wow, we've got thousands of cars driving on Route 71. Do we have it in the budget, Jerry? I think we do. Maybe we should pave it, right? So they add asphalt, and that increases the capacity to drive on that road meaningfully. It's a huge leap, right? You can go from anywhere from 25 to maybe 75 or 80. And again, depending on the use of that road or pathway, you could even expand it. And of course, this is what freeways tend to be, or interstate highways tend to be in the US, which is multi-lane freeways. Now, what this does is it allows faster and more traffic through a particular pathway or road, and it makes everything more efficient and therefore more likely to be used. So what gets used gets strengthened, and then what is strengthened is more likely to be used. Goes both ways. And the exact same thing happens on a neural level in our brains. So our brains are this complex interconnected system of neural 2-lane tire tracks, dirt roads, 2-lane highways, and 6-lane freeways. When you brush your teeth at night with your dominant hand, your brain is probably somewhere else thinking about what's coming up tomorrow. You're thinking about a conversation you had that you still can't get over, about how rude they were, whatever. But you're not thinking about like every angle and making, no, it's all automatic. Try this tonight. Try brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand and watch how much harder it is. You just went from driving on a 6-lane freeway, neurologically, that neural pathway is that well, the motor movements involved in brushing your teeth are that well driven on that it's just so easy. You can do it basically automatically. Do it with your non-dominant hand, and you will be shocked at how much more you have to think about it. You can do it, but you're driving on like a neighborhood road, right? It's there. There's motor. You can do it, but it's so much more. It's much more effortful or effort-filled. All right, let me sort of pull this down to the level of neurons in the brain. This is a gorgeous picture of a sort of high attention or sort of a beautiful image of actual neural pathways in the brain. And if we zoom in to the level of a single neuron, we have 86 billion neurons in our brain, not including the cerebellum, if anybody's interested in that. But 86 billion, we thought it was 100, but we've got better science now. It's 86 billion of these wonderful little trees. Neurons look like trees. If I was a giant and could go outside and rip out a tree and turn it sideways, that's what neurons look like. Neurons are the cells of our nervous system, of our brain. And every single tree has this wonderful stuff on the trunk called myelin sheath. Now, myelin is like the asphalt in the analogy. It's the big leap. So if I've got multiple layers of myelin wrapped around the trunk of every neuron, those neurons are going to fire faster and more efficiently. In other words, they become easier to travel on. They take less energy. And again, remember, brain's an energy Scrooge. So it's going to start preferring the pathways that are easier to travel on. Not necessarily because they're good for us, but because they're easier to travel on. So again, back to habits, the brain being habit agnostic, and whether or not we're in the driver's seat of forming those neural pathways or architecting those neural pathways. We really want to get in the driver's seat of that process, because if we can, or if we can help our clients do that, then all of a sudden the default automatic behaviors, the ones that are easiest to travel on, are the ones that are aligned with their goals and aligned with their values. All right, just to give you kind of a microscopic view of this, this is looking down the barrel of the axon, the trunk of the tree. These are actual neurotransmitter packets, which are sort of fun, but these are layers of the myelin sheath that you can see in these kind of rings. It looks like rings of a tree, maybe. But that's what happens as you use neurons or neural pathways. They get insulated and strengthened, just like the analogy with the dirt roads. All right, we're going to zoom back up. I swear that's as much high school biological science as we'll do this today. The main point of all of this, why are we saying all this? Because the brain is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. I'll say that slightly more nuanced. The more you use specific parts of it or pathways within it, the stronger those particular pathways become. Right? So if I'm learning a new habit of being a better listener because I'm trying to work on my leadership skills, and I'm learning that if I have the urge to say something, then I have the urge, then I will ask a question before offering my own opinion in a meeting. Ooh, that if-then plan, basically, or habit seed that I just planted in my mind can grow into something, and I can exercise or activate that certain neural pathway of pausing before opining. Yeah? And there's 1,000 variations of this. Any kind of habit we can kind of think of here is on the table. All right. William James, very famous psychologist, probably the most famous, really the foundation of modern American psychology, at least. He said, you want to make your nervous system your ally instead of your enemy. Love this quote. All right. There's a couple problems. If this were all Skittles and unicorns, of course, we'd all have perfect habits, but we don't. And there's some traps that come up. And so I want to talk about those traps. Just to make sure your clients don't think this is going to be easy. It gets bumpy out there on that sagebrush. You know what I'm saying? It's bumpy. So the first is that motivation is like a roller coaster, up and down, up and down. This isn't because your client or yourself is lazy or that you're not committed. That's the nature of motivation. Motivation throughout the day ebbs and flows like this. Actually, if you want to get really specific, they call them they're diurnal cycles, daytime energy cycles, and they run on a 90-20 clock. So you have about 90 minutes of good energy and 20-minute trough. That's the natural rhythm of energy cycles. They mirror our sleep time cycles. They call them ultradian rhythms. Super interesting research around this. But that's just the natural flow of energy throughout the day of motivation. All right, so motivation is not reliable. Sometimes it will not be there right when you need it, and other times you're going to feel amazing. So surf it when you have it, but don't rely on it as a reliable fuel source or you'll be disappointed. All right, that's trap number one. Number two is that willpower is like your cell phone battery. Dang. So it runs out. You ever noticed how much harder it is to resist Ben and Jerry's at 10 p.m. than 10 a.m.? Y'all know what I'm talking about, or the M&Ms, or whatever the heck we're talking about. Yeah, it's impulse control. That's willpower. So at night, we've burned through that capacity to resist temptation. You know, it's no wonder that we doom scroll at night or can't stop watching the next Netflix episode. It's because we're out of impulse control. We've used it up. And it's tired. It's tired, right? That capacity we have to flex that willpower has sort of run out. And sleep is the biggest recharge on that. There are other ways to recharge it as well. We don't have time to get into all those today, but that's stuff we do expand a lot on in some of the other work and some of the other courses that we do. Okay, so how do you get around these two traps? Like, what is it that makes the difference in terms of kind of like navigating this tricky habit terrain successfully? Mini habits are one of the most powerful ways to get some momentum and some traction with clients. So there's this wonderful professor, his name's BJ Fogg. Was it you, Michael, who asked me about BJ Fogg? Yeah. Pull it off if I can. Wrote a lovely book called Tiny Habits. Started researching this about 15 years ago now. And he had a problem. self-described problem. He said he wasn't getting enough exercise and he wanted to do more. And he noticed that he would try every year at New Year's resolution time, January 1st, to do the thing we all do. Get a gym membership, go big or go home. I think this year, by the time I go on our family trip in June, I'm going to have a six-pack. Said all the 20-year-olds, all the rest of us are like, I just want more energy. I'm fine with my muffin top as long as I can have some more energy. But the point is, he wanted more exercise in his life, and he was failing at it. And he's a Stanford psychologist. He's a scientist of behavior change, and he can't change his own behavior. That's a little embarrassing. So he starts getting curious, as a good scientist would, and he goes, why is it not working? And he goes, well, maybe the problem is that I'm just like, maybe the go big or go home thing is the problem. Maybe I'm swinging too big. Maybe I need to shrink the level of difficulty, not by a little bit, by a lot. So he tries this and he goes to the bathroom and does 2 push-ups after he goes to the bathroom and then goes back to his office. And then does it the next time. And the first thing he notices is he never skips, always does 2 push-ups. So consistency starts growing. Boom, every time, 2 push-ups, 2 push-ups, 2 push-ups, 2 push-ups, 2 push-ups, 2 push-ups, 2 push-ups. And he's like, well, that's interesting. I never miss. Whereas before, I would always miss, or I would fall off the wagon. The second thing he starts noticing is that the habit actually grows over time. So instead of doing 2 push-ups, he throws in an extra 5 or 7, or let's round it off to 10. Let's throw in 8 more. And so consistency reigns supreme, built a foundation of consistency instead of intensity. And then he started growing the amount that he was doing over time. So both things were working. He's like, this is interesting. I think I need to bring people into the lab and study them in their natural environments and see if this is a thing or if I'm just some weird, quirky scientist who it works for, but it works for nobody else. Here's what he started finding. There's different elements to behavior change or habit formation. One is motivation. You see that on the vertical axis here. And one is level of difficulty. Easy to do over here, hard to do over here. What he discovered is that everything up and to the right is a successful attempt at changing behavior. So let's imagine I wanted to drink more water in the morning. That's not a terribly difficult, habit relative to, say, working out for 45 minutes, right? Glug, 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 glug. 30 seconds later, got it down the hatch. Ta-da! Did it. Right? So that's going to be more over here. So because it's easier to do, it's going to cross that threshold, even if I don't have very much motivation. So if I feel sick, I don't feel like it, it's annoying, I'm not in the mood, I got in a fight with my spouse, like whatever the thing is, I'm probably still going to grab it on my nightstand, glug it down first thing in the morning, no matter how I feel. And that's the land of mini habits. Many habits live here. Now, everything down and to the left is an unsuccessful attempt at changing behavior. This was his big discovery. We'll get back to this graph in a sec, but I want to ask another question about New Year's resolutions because that's where this conversation with BJ Fogg began. Any guesses how many New Year's resolutions fail every year? Put it in the chat if you want. And by the way, welcome to those who've joined. Wendy, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Any guesses how many New Year's resolutions fail? Let's see.
All.
It's like we have experience with this, right? 90, 99, 75, 90. Okay. All right. You're all not far off. 92. There's a few different lines of research on this. Another one says 88. So it's in that range, but 92%. So think of it like this. If we were being tested on behavior change collectively as a group of humans, we'd be getting an 8%. Woo! Anybody ever gotten an 8% on a test? Like, think if you had an 8% on your math test and brought it home to mom and dad when you were in junior high, you'd be like, what happened, son? You'd be like, I got one right. You're like, well, I think we need to do something about this. All right, so here's a bit of a contradiction, right? We just talked about how changeable brains are, that neuroplasticity isn't the exception, it's the rule. Brains are constantly changing. That's an intrinsic property of every nervous system. And yet, when it comes to changing, or the skill of change, we're doing not so great in the aggregate, us humans. So what is missing? I've puzzled over this for better part of a decade. What I've come to believe is the missing ingredient is that we don't think of behavior change as a skill set. We think of it as a willpower thing. You know, it's like, it's a little bit like, so I have a 5-year-old and a 12-year-old. My 5-year-old is like into music. He's, I think, convinced he wants to play the electric guitar. I have a picture of him holding one. We just took the other day. But he's like he's like total like groove guy. Like he totally gets, you know, every time music comes on, he loves to like move his body. And if I were to put like Mozart's Magic Flute, you know, the famous opera, in front of him, like this 7-page piece of music, and be like, hey, buddy, why don't you tickle the ivories for daddy? I love this piece, this like second movement. It's so good. Why don't you just play that for daddy? Come on, you got this. You all would be like, you're crazy. You're either cruel or crazy, but probably both. Poor child hasn't ever taken lessons, Dad. What's wrong with you? Like, it's so obvious when it comes to music, is it not? Or sports. It's just so clear. It's like, oh, well, there's a skill set that's missing. It's going to take some time to develop. But for some reason, when it comes to behavior change and habit formation, we don't think of it that way. We just think of it as like, well, if I want it bad enough, if I care enough, if I'm committed enough, I should be able to figure it out and do it. Well, it's like, well, what if there's a whole skill set that's missing? That's the reason we're all getting an 8%. I don't know about you, but I never went to Habits 101 in 9th grade. I was too busy learning geometry and learning like obtuse angles. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't learn Behavior Change 101. I don't know about you, but I did not learn it. I don't think anybody did. So I don't think anybody's to blame here, but it's a really important point to make that like this is a skill set. And I think if our clients start internalizing that idea, they'll start understanding that like, oh, this is going to take some time and practice. Oh, and there's real value in coaching with Lori or Tony or Nahid or Kent or whoever. Because like, oh, they're helping me grow this habit skill set. This is what we're doing in our coaching sessions. This behavior change that I'm trying to make is going to take some time to really learn. All right, so what's the biggest flaw most people make when it comes to behavior change? Why do those 92% fail? Because most start here. There's like habit death. It's like go big or go home. This is the only thing that's Instagram worthy. Watch January 1. Watch what people do on January 1, 2, 3, 4, that week. They're going to be talking about how this year's different. 2026 is absolutely the year that's going to change for them, you know? And like, you're loving it. This is called the power of a fresh start. This is called the fresh start effect, actually. Anytime there's a new beginning of anything, you have this wave of motivation that surges in the body. That's totally normal, totally cool, but it is like a wave. And eventually that wave crests and crashes into the shore. All right. So you can ride it, you can surf it for as long as you want, but within it's usually about 2 weeks, this starts happening. This is what we call inconsistency. So a couple of weeks, and then, oh shoot, family came into town, and then like we go up, and then we go down, like, oh shoot, my kid got sick, and then I go up, and then we down. And then by the time like February, mid-February rolls around, we're so discouraged by the whiplash of the up and down that we fall off the wagon, beat ourselves up, feel bad about it because we don't have enough supposed willpower. And then we say, you know, it's definitely 2027. That is absolutely going to be my year. Well, many habits say, what if we just inverted it? What if we started down and to the right Instead of top left, we start bottom right, and then we work backward. It's like a total stealth move. It's a total ninja move. So this is what BJ Fogg discovered, that not only is this possible, but it's learnable as a skill set. So how does this work? Why do mini habits work when other habit strategies may fail? Number one is that mini habits build consistency. This is back to what BJ Fogg discovered right out of the gate. What he noticed was, holy cow, I don't miss. I don't miss. Wow. Okay, that's important. That's not nothing. Sure, it's small, but I don't miss. Consistency is king when it comes to habits. Aristotle, well, it's actually Will Durant summarizing Aristotle, but he said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Repeatedly being the operative word here. Repeatedly do is what we become. Now, again, back to this consistency versus intensity kind of distinction. Intensity is fine. Think of a 3-day weekend or a webinar or something that's really good, a retreat. You're going to get a lot of insight, maybe inspiration, even motivation, but transformation might take a little more time. And what we mean is consistent results that are typically born of repeated action over time. So what I like to say is consistency beats intensity every time. Another phrase I say to myself is do it ugly. Just do it. But if I'm in these clothes, I actually did this today. I did do a workout today, but it was I cut it short because, well, I was up with my wife talking until about 11:40 last night. And so it was like, oh, our 6 a.m. thing kind of got blown and one of our kids was sick and, it's life. And so I did work out, but I did about a 15 to 20 minute workout. And I just wanted another set of reps. So as I was leaving the house, I was literally wearing this. I walked over to my little gym setup in my garage. I walked over and I started doing curls, wearing this thing, doing a whole set of stuff. That's not what you're supposed to work out in, people. Doesn't matter. Do it ugly. Do it ugly. I don't know how many times I've run in my work clothes. And again, it's not pretty. It's usually around the block, but it's consistency over intensity, and it tends to keep us on the path of action rather than getting stuck in the kind of quagmire of perfectionism. All right, these are my workout clothes that I set on my nightstand. One of the shifts that I've made, so a couple things you probably notice is the first thing I see in the morning. Those are the cue. That's the cue. They activate an automatic behavior. They make it a few minutes easier, right? They make it easier to do because I just don't have to get into the closet. And sometimes our closet's particularly cold. There's not great insulation in there. We live in New Hampshire, not California. So, there's all these things you have to consider. But the point here is that these little adjustments make a huge difference. And what you'll notice is not on my nightstand is the you know what I'm talking about, right? Shaped like this. Glowing screen. Yeah, the phone. No phone. Phone is far away. So I'm decreasing number of steps to the desired behavior and increasing the number of steps I have to take for the undesired behavior. Phones are number one thing that'll knock any habit off. Just deadly. Deadly. There's a lot of cool apps and things that can help with blocking phone use if we want to get into that. All right. I've recently taken to actually wearing my workout clothes to bed. So I've taken it one step further. They're now my pajamas. In all honesty, huge difference. Huge. It's just even that one difference. Now I've got multiple sets of workout clothes. They're my pajamas. Don't worry, I wash them every week. My wife appreciates that. All right. 2, mini habits build confidence. So consistency is number one. Two is confidence. Why does this matter? What are we talking about? Well, habits not only build behavior, they build belief. The belief that I'm succeeding, that it's working, that the energy and effort I'm spending is paying off. We call this in scientific terms self-efficacy. Self-efficacy, which is your belief in your ability to influence an outcome. Your belief in your ability to achieve a goal. Yeah, Tony, you have a question? Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Self-efficacy and agency, are they one and the same thing?
Agency, I think if you look at the researchers, they think of it as a slightly broad, they're very tightly linked. I think you think of agency as a sort of slightly broader umbrella term, and self-efficacy as a subtype of agency. Yeah. But absolutely essential, no matter if you're looking at Rick Snyder's research on hope, or Seligman's research on learned helplessness, or any of these folks, you're going to see agency woven into and self-efficacy. Bandura, who did all the research on self-efficacy, agency is absolutely the fulcrum upon which self-efficacy swings. Yeah, and there's some nuances here, but that we could get into with some more time. Yeah. So again, getting into Bandura, who's an incredible psychologist, one of the most influential of the 20th century, he really cracked the code on this because he realized that self-efficacy is the biggest predictor of success. And so he wanted to know, well, how do you build it? And what he discovered is you got to accumulate a series of small successes or small wins. You got to build up evidence to your brain that it's working, that you're succeeding. You have to see the evidence. And the more it's visual or visible, the more powerful it becomes. So instead of to-do lists, I often recommend all-through lists and other kinds of tools to show visual progress. I'll show you one other example. This is one of my favorite things that I have people use. Anything that depicts progress, right? Where every time you do something, you represent it physically in physical form. That's going to help motivationally. This isn't just, it's not just a gimmick. It actually activates the dopamine system and ramps up a reward system or a motivation system for showing you that you're actually truly making progress. I'm going to show you one more way to do this. This is Jerry Seinfeld has this wonderful method, basically, of tracking. It's very simple, but when asked by a young comedian, Jerry, how'd you become so funny? He said, well, I just write jokes every day. And the young comedian, not terribly impressed by Jerry's answer, said, well, I know, Jerry, but we all write jokes every day. Come on, dude, what's your secret sauce? He said, well, I do keep this calendar system, and every day that I write jokes, I put an X on that day, and then I move on with my day. And he had this kind of wall of calendars. And then he said this to the young comedian. After a few days, you'll have a chain. Just keep at it, and the chain will grow longer every day. You'll like seeing that chain, especially when you get a few weeks under your belt. Your only job is to not break the chain. So this is called a streak system. A streak system is ever so slightly different than an additive system. This is an additive system that there is no misses in this system. There are only wins. Where in the calendar Xing system, you can actually see the misses depending on the person and their temperament. Sometimes seeing those misses can be pretty upsetting, devastating. If anybody's ever had a meditation app and missed a day after 371 perfect meditation days, and all of a sudden it goes back to 1, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like, well, geez, did that just like, of course, that's not true. All that progress is still there, but it somehow is this big letdown. So additive systems can compensate for that. Sometimes you can use them together, where you're showing progress, showing both the sort of visual depiction of what you're seeing here, but also doing a dual system where you also add something to a container that shows progress and it doesn't reset if you miss a day. Yeah. All right. So consistency, confidence. The third thing mini habits do is they build motivation. Motivation. What do we mean by that? Well, motivation system is super sneaky. And one of the biggest insights anyone can have is that motivation follows action. It tends not to precede it. It can, it doesn't mean it can't. But what you know for sure is the thing you can control, which is action, can activate motivation. We tend to want to wait until we feel motivated. I'm on the couch enjoying this nice movie. I don't feel like going to the gym. Well, it's like maybe if you just got to the gym and walked through the doors, and that was the mini habit, just getting through the doors. And I've worked with plenty of clients on this one thing, just getting through the doors. You can actually go back to the car and go straight back home if you'd like. That's totally fine. But that is the habit. That is the mini habit, just getting through the doors. The fact that you're there might shift your state, and you might activate a state of motivation simply by the act of doing that one mini habit of getting out the door, which is also why I would sleep in my workout clothes. Just getting out the door, it takes me a few minutes to be on my run before I actually start feeling motivated to continue my run. The principle here is brains hate starting, but they love continuing. This is what people forget. They hate starting, but they adore continuing. So if you can get it started with a small thing, it tends to want to continue down that path of action. All right, so mini habits grow. How do they do that? What was BJ Fogg up to in this kind of like backdoor stealth manner of growing a habit? Well, bonus reps. You know, we already said that. He threw in 8 more just to round it off to 10. And hey, why not 18 more? Let's do 20, you know, over time. But bonus reps tend to be a way to grow habits. There's also other systems we won't get into. We don't have time to get into them here, but there's a thing called elastic habits. So you can have a small, medium, and large version of a habit. That's a sort of iteration on mini habits. That's a sort of slightly different way to grow a habit. But habits, mini habits originally, the sort of research is that they grow through these kind of bonus reps. You feel so happy that you did it that you want to just do a few more extra. All right, mini habits build willpower, so that mental battery we were talking about can actually get bigger. Bonus. Doesn't run out as fast. Right? So at night, I'm not getting as cranky with my loved ones because I have more impulse control, because over time, I'm literally exercising that mental muscle. So I have more capacity to handle more over time. This happens as we exercise that discipline of directing our habits and behaviors. All right, last one is that mini habits boost autonomy and flexibility. So autonomy just means, look, if I want to do 2 push-ups after I go pee, just like BJ Fogg, I can just stay at 2. That's up to me. But if I want to throw in 5 or 7 or 8 more, that's also up to me. My choice. Choice always nurtures motivation. And flexibility is, look, I can take them on vacation and they don't break. Or family comes into town and they don't break. If it's 11:38 p.m. and I have a mini habit of writing 1 thing I'm grateful for in my journal, or 3 things I'm grateful for in my journal, it takes 30 seconds to a minute, I'm going to still be able to do that at 11:38. Whereas if I feel like I have to write like 2 pages in my writing habit at 11:38, probably not going to do it. So again, it builds in that flexibility no matter what's going on in your life, that you typically can still knock out a mini habit. All right, so how do you set them up? What's the kind of recipe, if you will, for how to set these up? I've hinted at this with an if-then plan. If blank, then blank, with that listening habit with leadership. An iteration or a slight twist on if-then plans are after-then plans. If you know, so we already do a bunch of things in our life. Again, 43% of our day is probably already habitized. And so what do you already do? You sit down at a desk, do you take a shower? Do you get dressed every morning? Do you eat 3 meals? Do you get in your car, get out of your car? Do you walk in the front door? Do you walk out of the front door? Like, what do you already do? Those are all habits, even though we don't think of them as habits. All behaviors you repeat on a daily basis. So after I shut the door, then I will walk over to my loved ones and give everyone a hug. Okay, that's cool. After I blank, then I'll blank. After I sit down at my desk, then I will plan my day in my finisher journal, map out my time blocking based on my priorities rather than open my email. After I blank, after I drop my kid off at the bus, then I will shut the door and listen, do a 5-minute meditation on Headspace rather than turn on the random radio to whatever happened to be on the radio. All right, after I blank, then I'll blank. You want to celebrate progress? All right, so this is extremely understated in terms of the value. This signals to your brain that it's working because brains are energy scrooges. If you don't do this, it will dry up the energy. You won't feel motivated to keep going. So celebration isn't just like a thing we should do for kids. This is like central to self-motivation. This is a learnable skill, and it's something that we tend to not do because it's childish. I don't actually know, but it's certainly not aligned with the brain science to not do it. If you genuinely want to learn how to self-motivate, you want to celebrate immediately after you do behavior. People ask, how many can you do at a time? With mini habits, I think 3 is a nice number, but anywhere between 2 and 4 is like an appropriate number. They tend to be harder habits, medium or difficult level habits. 1 to 2 is what the research shows. Okay, we're going to jump into questions. I think we have time for questions, Michael. But before we do that, because I'm going to forget to do this, we are, if you want to join us, well, by the way, if any of you are coming to ICF Converge, we're going to be there. We're going to have a booth, and we're going to be doing a talk there, and we'll have, so I'd love to meet any of you there. We'll also be holding, at the end of this month, a 4-hour free masterclass for really all of the best brain-based tools that we've developed over the last decade. So let me just give you should be a QR code there. And let me see if I can put this in the chat as well, if you want to join us for that. Okay, questions. I think we have some time for questions, Michael. Is that right?
Yes.
What questions do people have?
Oh, thank you. I see you also put that link in the chat, so that's great.
Sorry, the two times. It's 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific. It's a half-day thing.
Oh, James, this is Kent. I just really enjoyed this, bud. This was really fun, interesting. I believe everything you say, and I apply much of it with my clients.
Great. Thank you, Kent. Appreciate that.
I loved it too. And I have people do a celebration file and a confidence file. And now I know why. You've given me the neuroscience and the brain reasons why. I do think people think that it's silly or inefficient to celebrate. And I mean, I've always liked it myself, or giving yourself that that time to celebrate and breathe it in. And now I know the reasons why it's efficient. So thank you.
Well, I'll give you, Lori, totally so grateful you do that. It's strategy. Like, this is like, what I mean is, and we'll probably go deeper into this in this event we're doing on the 28th, but there is a part of your brain that's like the dopamine factory. It's called your ventral tegmentum. It's 400,000 neurons sits right, or 200,000 neurons sits right at the top of your brainstem. Literally just making dopamine all day, but it stores it on the shelves of the factory, so to speak. Won't release it until it sees evidence of progress, visual progress. So you actually have to see the progress. So this kind of stuff isn't like optional if you want to stay motivated. It's essential. And so celebration is amplification of the win. And so it just makes it more visual, more obvious, more clear, more loud, more present in the foreground instead of the background, right? We know we did a thing, but it's way in the background of our memory. That's not going to keep us motivated. What we're actually looking at with a to-do list is a pure representation of anti-progress.
So James, just pick it up on that. And I'm this idea of it's on the shelf waiting to be released that needs evidence of progress. Is that where sometimes that's released then through like the use of social media and the doom scrolling? Does that produce that same release, even though it's not evidence of success? It's just doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling would be an example of activating a dopamine release, but via a different mechanism. It's novelty. So dopamine gets released for different reasons. The one we're talking about here is the one that's squarely. It's about goals. Brains are exquisitely sensitive to goals and goal pursuit. And so if you know how to leverage and harness that particular mechanism of goals and achieving a goal, that's more what we're talking about. The social media pathway to dopamine is about the novelty, the surprise of we never know what we're going to see basically when we're scrolling.
Thank you.
But back to the anti-progress to-do list versus progress-rich all-through list. The only rule I have with an all-through list is you can't write. I actually have a board I'm pointing at right now. It's a whiteboard, and it's literally in all caps, all through, like all done, right? All through list. And the only rule is I can't write it up there until I've finished it. And so what I'm actually staring at as I go through my day is every time I finish something, I run over, put a big star next to it, and write it in, big caps with a big exclamation point, like a win. And so what I'm actually looking at as I move through my day is all the progress I'm making, as opposed to all the progress I'm not making, which is what a to-do list tends to be. Doesn't mean you shouldn't keep a to-do list. You can keep it, just keep it out of sight. Tuck it in a drawer, X out of it. Consult it as needed when you need to decide what you're working on next. But what you want to be looking at all day long is your all-through list. To-do lists and inboxes are motivation killers. All-through lists are motivation enhancers.
James, I have a question on this. Dopamine needs visual or preferably visual, preferably immediate. Evidence of success. So let's say I have this beautiful sticker thing and I want to put a pretty sticker on every time I've had a success. I think what you're saying is it's better not to wait till evening and go, okay, did I do all the things today? And let's say I have the habit and I want to do it every morning and I have like 3 mini habits I want to do during the day. Is it better to put a sticker after each mini habit, like right after it happened?
Ideally.
Got it.
It's not the wait until night is bad. It's not. It's like a good, better, best. The best is to do it immediately.
Got it.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. All right, Michael. I think we're right at time, maybe a minute over.
I tell you what, this has been fantastic, just absolutely fantastic, and just these last 5 minutes, even of questions. I'm like, oh, I wrote 5 pages of notes, so I'm very appreciative of this, and I've read BJ Fogg's book, and kind of nerd out on some of this stuff. So I think this is just fantastic, and love the learning. Love the learning.
Thank you.
One of the things that that Naheed is the setter of this tradition, is we ask participants, can you give us one takeaway for James to say, hey, this is what I'm walking away with.
All right, well, I'll start since I'm James. I really appreciate having you come and see us. We always love having you with us. You're so articulate. I got a couple. I mean, I love this stuff and I already do a lot of it, but I got quite a few just extra, let's say, refinements on how to do it. And I got some dopamine hits and some motivation coming at me. And I really just appreciate you being with us. And the other thing is it okay, since we had a small group today, is it okay with you if your free Brain Tools crash course for coaches, is it okay if I post it in our Slack group for anyone who's interested?
For sure.
They're
sure.
all coaches. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, any coaches are welcome to come. And this is, if this was valuable, that what we'll be doing there will just be this, but we'll have a lot more space and time, and we're going through a lot more tools, basically.
Excellent.
Okay.
No, my only additional comment, James, would be I'm a speech coach also and a presentation coach. I just think you have a great presence and a great style. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that.
I'd like to echo that. I love the energy in which you brought, and even this small space, it still felt big and open, but not overly big. So I appreciate that energy that you brought.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you.
Well, I go ahead, Tony.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say what I really appreciated was how the things we discussed brought more clarity to the sort of dark matter of behavior and the brain, which is, I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase, our consciousness is like a mouse on the back of an elephant. I'm sure you've heard that. Our behavior isn't known to us, what drives it. But these techniques allow us to get into the driver's seat a little more and be more, I hate to use the word control as though that's a great thing, but they allow us to live within the frame of some control of managing our lives. It's very powerful.
Totally. I know control is a weighted word. It can go both ways.
Yeah.
I was using the analogy of it in the steering wheel of a car. We definitely want to be holding the steering wheel as we're driving a vehicle. The same thing with our lives. We want to be holding the steering wheel of our subconscious drivers of our behavior, if we can.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
And I just wanted to say thank you again. And I love making the brain your friend. So if you understand how the brain works and the psychopharmacology of it all of the release of the serotonin and dopamine and so forth, and make it your friend, then you can achieve the things that you want. So I love that shift. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Lori.
And I'm super fired up. The last comment I'm going to throw out there is I have a client meeting on Thursday, and I cannot wait to share with this client the idea that motivation follows action. This client needs to hear that very, very clearly. So I really appreciate. I've heard that before, but somehow it got lost, and now it's right there. So thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been such a pleasure to be with you today. Thanks for taking the time.
All right. Thank you all. Everyone have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Thank you again so much. And James, thank you so much for your time. It was really a fantastic presentation.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Yep. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.